Thanks, Christy. You all didn't hear it, but I had Kool and the Gang celebration in my head as I was walking up here, because this is the celebration part of the meeting. My name is Jason Crable. I'm the Executive Director of the Decorative Arts Center of Ohio in Lancaster, Ohio, and I am proud to be the chair of the AASLH Awards Committee, which is, in my humble opinion, the best committee that AASLH has of its leadership, because of what we get to do today in large part, which is celebrate the amazing work in our field by all of you. So I just want to start. I'm not going to talk long because, well, I am going to talk long, but I'm going to focus on the award winners here in a second. But I just want to ask in the room, other than the awards that are being awarded today, or how many of you in the room, raise your hand if you've if you've received an AASLH award in the past? All right, look around the room, everybody. These are your leaders. Everybody, this is great. Terrific. So I'm going to talk more about the specific awards and the categories and the details later, but I just want to say that the awards process, the awards, receiving an award, going through the process to nominate yourself helps really reveal the best in our field. Not everybody who nominates themselves or is nominated for an award receives one. But to receive an award is a demonstration of your excellence among your peers. So I just want to say, if you don't submit a nomination, you can't win an award. So I encourage you all to go back home, look at what you are doing, look at what your colleagues around the field in your region and area are doing, and encourage yourselves and the professionals around you to consider submitting their work for an award. Okay? The submission process next year begins November. We'll get those details out soon. But the deadline is March 1st. So you'll have several months to submit awards. There's a whole process I'm not going to go into now. You get support. You can ask all kinds of questions. The awards committee is really here at the state level and at the regional level to help. And I actually want to give thanks to all of our state and regional representatives who work on this program, assisting and encouraging the nominees. This program could not happen without all of your local outreach and coordination. And so I am going to ask, if you are on the awards committee, either as a state representative or a regional representative, would you stand and be recognized? I know we've got a few in the audience here. And I know that, assuming that this meeting is streaming or being recorded, we have a lot of particularly awards committee folks who couldn't be here today, who are very excited, and they're trying to watch it so that they can celebrate with us as well. So with that, I'm gonna start with our first award tonight, which is the Award of Distinction. The Award of Distinction is given infrequently in recognition of long and very distinguished individual service. Recipients are noted for their contributions to the field of state and local history, including their service and volunteerism to the field and/or to AASLH, and are recognized nationally as leaders in our profession. So I'm actually going to step aside. Here to present this award today is Christy Coleman again, incoming chair of AASLH's Council and Executive Director of the Jamestown-Yorktown Foundation in Virginia. So Christy, can I call you back up?
It's my pleasure to present the AASLH Award of Distinction. This award is bestowed infrequently and only in recognition of long and very distinguished service. Recipients are noted for their contributions to the field of state and local history and are recognized nationally as leaders in the profession. Past awardees include Lonnie Bunch, Dennis O'Toole, Sandra Clark, Robert Richmond, John and Anita Durrell, and Cinnamon, Caitlin Legato, and others. In the long history of the organization, 84 years to be exact, there have only been 26 of these awards given. During this conference, we will add another to this distinguished list. And today, we are honoring a very dear friend and mentor, Dr. Rex M. Ellis. Rex has been an influential member and creative force in the museum field for over 40 years. Now retired, Dr. Ellis has held several positions at the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation before being recruited away by the Smithsonian not once but twice for the National Museum of American History and the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Rex has had a distinguished museum career, been an extraordinary educator, academic, author, and mentor to many, some of which are in this room. The impact of his work has rippled through 2 generations of museum leaders, artists, and community influencers. At Colonial Williamsburg, it was his job to bring the stories of free and enslaved African-descended people to millions. When Rex and 3 of his students stepped onto Duke of Gloucester Street in the summer of 1979, it sent shockwaves throughout the historic area and the museum world. Within a few short years, Rex and his expanded team developed a series of historic dramas, vignettes, outreach programs, and storytelling and music programs, in addition to a plethora of tours. He pushed the curatorial departments to research and consider how Black life should be seen in every building. He created the Other Half Tour, a walking tour that revealed the long-hidden histories of 18th century Williamsburg Black population, which accounted for 52% of Williamsburg's population. In the 10 years that Rex was at Williamsburg, he accomplished a lot in his career. In fact, that would be enough to warrant him earning the Award of Distinction. However, he went on to do so much more. With these successes, he was called upon to help other institutions incorporate the stories of Black peoples into their narratives. He laid forth protocols to help each organization move at its pace, but not a slow pace. Among the dozens of museums that sought his expertise were Thomas Jefferson's Montpelier, Thomas Jefferson's Monticello, James Madison's Montpelier, Mount Vernon, the Henry Ford Museum, Old Salem Village, and on and on. Soon after, as I said before, he was recruited by the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History as a deputy director. In that role, he worked with museums and organizations like the National Constitution Center, the Philadelphia Museum of Arts, school districts from California, Texas, and more. When he returned to the Smithsonian the second time to work at NEMOC, he was tasked with planning, developing, directing, and managing all curatorial activities, outreach, education programs, and other relative activities. The opening of the museum in 2016, as we all knew, drew international attention, and the collections on which its stellar exhibitions were built have inspired millions from around the world. Throughout all of these professional endeavors, Rex wrote 2 books, continues to perform live and on screen. He recorded, he published dozens of articles. In his capacity at NEMOC, he traveled the world assisting museums in New Zealand and France and South Africa and Ghana and Israel and Haiti. His work is grounded in deep personal faith and belief in the human spirit. And while there is much more that can be said about this remarkable person, the true testament to his impact on the field is in the careers of many colleagues he has mentored and the numerous institutions whose interpretive approach to difficult history has been shaped by many of his early ideas. Not only is Rex deserving for what he did in the wider field, but also what he did in service to AASLH, having served and been a member for many, many years. So it gives me a distinct pleasure and honor to welcome Dr. Rex Ellis as the latest inductee for AASLH's Award of Distinction. Please join me.
Thank you. Thank you. The first thing I wanted to do was to invite my wife on the stage. Now, I wanted to invite her because I'm always on stage. I'm always being seen, but she is always right there beside me. So what I wanted to do was to introduce you to my wife of 50 years. Last February, last February, we celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. When I went to the small town that she was raised in, I saw someone who saved me. And I wanted to show you who she is. In 2021 and 2022, I had 2 strokes. And I'm able to stand now, and before long, it's going to take some time, but before long, I'll be able to walk. Now, from the time the stroke happened until now, she has been by my side. And I wanted to acknowledge that whatever success I have, it is in part her success too. So I just want you to be here. All right, you can go now. I accept this award on behalf of all those docents, historical interpreters, interpreters, volunteers, all those people who worked all across this country telling the story of our country. I accept the award in their honor. I want to, I guess, acknowledge them, because it's possible that they were never honored. It's possible that they have never been singled out. It's possible that they did a service, and it's possible that they still are doing that service. It's possible that no one knew and no one knows what they have done. And so I wanted to acknowledge them, and I wanted to say to them, if you feel like giving up, if you feel like giving in, if you feel like there's a better place for me to go and to do something else rather than work in museums. If you feel that way because nobody has ever acknowledged you, nobody has ever thanked you, nobody has ever given you the accolades you deserve, this reward is yours as well. And I want to say, if you've thought about these kinds of people, and if you're one of these people, and you said to yourself, no, I want to do something else. I want to be somewhere where I'm acknowledged, where I'm appreciated, where I'm not talking to and worrying with visitors every day. I pray that you do not give up. I pray that you realize that somewhere there is someone who sees you and someone who will reward you for the work that you did. So I thought about the years that I interpreted and the years that I worked in museums, and I thought to myself, there's someone out there who you don't know, who may see you and who may be waiting for you. There's somebody out there who will acknowledge what you do, and they need to hear you. So don't give up. Don't give up and say, these people will never recognize me. These people will never see what I do for this museum. I'm tired, and I'm going to work somewhere else and make better money. Don't give up, because someone is waiting for you. Someone is waiting to hear what you have to say. Someone is going to acknowledge the work you've done and the hours that you've read, and they are going to be enlightened by who you are and by what you are ready to share with them. So don't give up. Don't give up. This is for you. And I thought this morning as I laid in bed, I thought about a young lady. Christy, you may remember her. I know you remember her. What's your name? Richard, that's right. I know you remember her. Her name is Valerie Holmes. Valerie Holmes, I went to see a program that she did at the Hennage Auditorium in Williamsburg. It was a one-woman show, and it was a show that talked about the work that she did at the Wythe House, creating a persona by the name of Lydia Broadnax, who worked for George Wythe. Now, Lydia performed that persona in the Hennage Auditorium. And one day, when I had become vice president of the historic area, I decided to go and see how she was doing. I took my notebook and sat and watched her and was rapt by what she did. And then, when the show was over, about an hour and a half later, I took my notebook and I noticed that there were people who had left the auditorium and had gone out into the foyer. So I went out with her, I took a few notes, and I was going to talk to her about the performance. Well, as I was going outside to the foyer, there was a long line. And I said, what are these people, how are these people going about their business? And someone said, they are waiting in line to see Valerie. So I took my turn and waited in line. And this gentleman that was beside me noticed me, and I hope I looked distinguished, but I might not have. And I waited and I waited, and he watched me. But he waited as well, and he had his wife along with him. When it got to, they were all waiting for Valerie. When they had gotten to Valerie, his wife began talking to her, and then they were finished, and I had my turn, so I walked up to Valerie, and the man said to me, "Don't touch her." He said, "My wife and I come here every year to see her. Don't do anything to change what she does." So, okay, I'm going to leave her alone. She's at Colonial Williamsburg now, and she's interpreting that character now. She has touched people. Every time she does a performance, there's a long line of people, and there are people that want to talk to her, that she moves, that she touches, that she reminds of themselves and what their lives were like. So there are Valerie Holmeses out there. You know Valerie Holmes. It's a special talent we have. It's a talent that is born of hard work, is born of many, many hours of work, and a talent that's born of a love for museums that are above what most people think. So I accept this award as a reminder that we all are in a very special business, and what we do matters, and where we do it matters, and how we do it matters. And I hope that you will get the reward that I'm getting today, because I'm accepting it on your behalf and the behalf of all interpreters and what they do, the special things that they do for us all. Thank you.
Okay, now I follow that. All right. So now we're going to move on to our awards of excellence. The AASLH Awards are presented to recognize excellence for projects including civic engagement, special projects, educational programs, exhibits, publications, and individual lifetime achievement. The awards recognize extraordinary effort and creativity by organizations of all sizes and spotlight the best work in the field from all over the country that we can point to as models of what great history work can be. We look forward to sharing the incredible projects from this year's awards with you, and hope you'll look to them for inspiration and encouragement as you consider the possibility of history work at your own institutions. So now let's get into it. Some logistics here. The ceremony goes by region, so when you see your region on screen, come to the left of the stage, on my left here, where the stairs are. When your organization is called, please come on stage and accept your certificate, pause for a photo, and then exit back down the stairs. We were going to try to do a stage dive system, but you can just go back down the stairs. And then we'll email the photos to you after the conference to use for your local and social media. All right, so with all of that, we're going to start with Region 1, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Starting with, if you're here for an award, come on toward the stairs here. We're going to start with Dr. Patricia Fanning for 50 years of service to local history and the community of Norwood, Massachusetts. Patricia has served as unofficial town historian for decades, writing books and articles, leading history organizations, facilitating public programs, and preserving the town's oldest cemetery. Okay, great. Not all the award winners are here, and some who we thought might come are not here for weather reasons, and so we'll see how. All right. Heritage Museum and Gardens for creating Cape Cod. This project examined how Cape Cod transformed from a place that Thoreau described as a Yankee backwater to a vacation destination that 5 million people visit annually. Through an exhibition and oral history videos, this project connects both locals and tourists to the origin story of a beloved place. Next up, Newburyport Black History Initiative for Newburyport Black History Initiative interpretive signs. This research and installation project brings the stories and voices of Black residents who lived and worked in Newburyport from the pre-Revolutionary War era to the early 20th century back into the city landscape for modern viewers to learn from and be inspired by. Next is Old North Illuminated for expanding history at Old North Church. This Boston church is well known for its association with the Revolution and Paul Revere, but recent research into early congregants' involvement with slavery led to the development of a project recovering the stories of Black and Indigenous peoples in its early history and its evolving legacy. Next is the Somerville Museum, Somerville High School Local History Club, and the Rivas family for Above and Beyond, the remarkable life of Somerville Olympian Phil Rivas. With support from the Somerville Museum and in collaboration with the Rivas family, students curated an exhibit about the life of Phil Rivas, an Olympic athlete, longtime educator, and one of the first people of color in Somerville with a public space named in his honor. Today, we are honored to have representatives from the museum and school, as well as Mr. Rivas' son, with us. Next is the New Hampshire Historical Society for The Moose on the Loose, Social Studies for Granite State Kids. This new state social studies curriculum is part of a larger initiative undertaken called the Democracy Project, which seeks to renew history and civics education in New Hampshire schools by focusing on 3 areas: developing instructional materials, training educators, and advocating statewide for better social studies education. And now moving on to Region 2, which is Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, and Rhode Island. Okay. Starting with the Connecticut Museum of Culture and History for The Bicycle Game. Through a series of games, this exhibition explores the impact of the 1890s bicycle craze, specifically as it unfolded in Connecticut, home to one of the era's largest bicycle manufacturing companies. The themes of technological innovation, manufacturing strategies and systems, and social impact are embedded in an overarching narrative that engages visitors of all ages. Next is Culture for a Cause, the John Brown Project. This community arts community initiative promotes equality through history, art, journalism, and storytelling. The documentary film, His Truth is Marching On, traces American music history through a Civil War song about Torrington, Connecticut's John Brown and his legacy as a contested historical figure. Next is the Fairfield Museum and History Center for Creating Community, 400 Years of Fairfield Stories. This long-term exhibition presents a more complete picture of southwestern Connecticut's diverse history and shared future through new research and archaeological discoveries on pre-colonial Native American history, newly uncovered primary resources on Fairfield's African American community, and the latest scholarship on the region's 400-plus year history. Next is the Housatonic Museum of Art for the Practice of Democracy, A View from Connecticut. This project demonstrates the continued impact of historical inequities as manifested in the built environment of Bridgeport, Connecticut. The project's goal was to empower visitors to recognize that powerful decision-making intentionally shaped their cities and neighborhoods, often without considering negative impacts on community members. Next is the Philipse Manor Hall State Historic Site for Philipse Manor Hall State Historic Site exhibits. This reimagining of a 17th century Dutch manor house along the Hudson River replaced outdated elitist interpretation with a more nuanced exploration of the original indigenous inhabitants, enslaved Africans, European tenant farmers, and the Philipse family's involvement in the slave trade. Next is the Lippett House Museum for the Lippett House Museum Civics Program for Adult English Language Learners. This civics program for English speakers of other languages had students enrolled in English and citizenship prep classes, helps participants gain historical context and understanding of the principles and contradictions inherent in our democratic form of government while preparing for the responsibilities of citizenship. And finally, for Region 2, the Preservation Society of Newport County for the Celestial City, Newport, and China. This exhibit celebrates the contributions of Chinese and Chinese American individuals to life in Newport from the 18th century through the Gilded Age. People of Chinese heritage, including artists, merchants, immigrant entrepreneurs, and women suffragists, shaped all aspects of life in Newport. Their stories, largely untold before, were at the heart of this exhibition. And now we move on to Region 3, Delaware, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Pennsylvania. Beginning with the Smithsonian's Anacostia Community Museum for To Live and Breathe, Women and Environmental Justice in Washington, D.C. Through oral history, art, photography, and everyday objects, this exhibition highlighted the efforts of local activists to ensure that all communities are safe and healthy. Putting their insistence on access to clean air, water, and land into historical and national context, the exhibition showcased the powerful legacy of women's environmental justice work in Washington, D.C. and beyond. Next, Christopher Haley, for 30 years of research and advocacy for African American history in Maryland. Christopher has led, developed, and driven the African American History Program of the Maryland State Archives with passion and purpose for the last 30 years. He founded and has directed the Legacy of Slavery program in Maryland, not done yet, for 20 years. For decades, Chris has always used his voice to speak for diversity and inclusion, not just to call for it, but also to provide guidance and leadership, allowing others to do the same. Next is College Park Aviation Museum for the Latinas in Aviation Global Festival. This annual program connects with the museum's local Spanish-speaking community through stories of Latina women and introduces the community to the possibilities of aviation. Through education, mentorship, and inspiration, this festival shares aviation history and opportunities through inclusive representation and trailblazing women. Next is the Frick Pittsburgh for Clayton Signature Tour Experience, Gilded, Not Golden. This tour immerses visitors in the year 1892, a critical year for our nation, Pittsburgh, and the Frick family. The Gilded Age was an era of extremes of wealth, poverty, progress, and destruction, and this experience explores how these extremes affected the lives of everyone living in Pittsburgh at the time and encourages visitors to consider, are we living in a second Gilded Age? Next is the Museum of the American Revolution for Black Founders, the Fortin Family of Philadelphia. This project brought together, for the first time in a major museum exhibition, more than 100 historical artifacts to tell the story of free black Philadelphian James Fortin and his family's tireless pursuit of liberty and equality. The project explores the Fortin family's role in the Revolutionary War, business in Philadelphia, and the abolitionist movement from 1776 to 1876. And finally, for Region 3, Stenton for Inequality in Bronze, Monumental Plantation Legacies. This Philadelphia House Museum reckoned with the site's history of slavery through the life of Dinah, an enslaved woman who was brought to the site in the 1750s. Through new research, recontextualization of 1912 and 1939 monuments, community engagement, and the development of a new monument to Dinah, this project revolutionized the museum's interpretation of slavery and its ability to share authority with its community. All right, moving on to Region 4, Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. Starting with the Alabama Department of Archives and History in Montgomery for Alabama History Institutes. This innovative and immersive professional development series offers workshops in history and civics for public, private, and homeschooled K-12 educators, and has already served more than 1,000 educators across the state. Next, the Alabama Department of Archives and History in Montgomery for History Now, Conversations on the Past and Present. This public program series uses historical events, current issues, or ongoing historical processes to engage audiences with the meaningful and often controversial intersections of the past and present in Alabama. I didn't know if we wanted to applaud and mess up the photo, or so we wait. It's all right. Next is This Day in Miami History for This Day in Miami History podcast. The podcast is dedicated to telling stories large and small about Miami-Dade County, Florida. Each regular episode is tied to an important date, using the anniversary as an opportunity for listeners to connect and learn. More than 30 episodes have uncovered unknown stories, elevated lesser-known stories, and offered new angles on the commemorations that have the community's awareness and attention. Moving on to Region 5, which covers Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. We've got Birthplace of Country Music Museum in Bristol, Virginia for I've Endured, Women in Old-Time Music. This exhibit presents the obscured history of female musicians, past and present, while also examining challenges faced by women, exploring the ways that women have innovated and pushed the boundaries of music, highlighting their lasting contributions to the genres, and presenting their vision for its future. And also from Region 5, Douglas High School Commemorative Committee and Loudoun County Public Schools for the historic Douglas High School Education and Development Campus. Douglas High School, built in 1941, was the only accredited high school for black students in Loudoun County, Virginia, before integration in 1968. When Loudoun County Public Schools, LCPS, had an opportunity to repurpose the historic buildings and property, they created a commemoration that documents the determination and dedication of the black community to overcome daunting obstacles, secure education for their children, and which stands as a testament and model for others. Moving on to Region 6, Illinois, Indiana, Miami, and Ohio. Starting with Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum for Here I Have Lived, Home in Illinois. This exhibit explores the evolving concept of home through the lives of famous and ordinary past inhabitants of the state. From Michelle Obama and Ronald Reagan to Pullman workers, Cahokia residents, and the Lincoln's seamstress, this project offers personal glimpses of local history and people through the universal lens of home. Next is the Glencoe Historical Society for Glencoe's Black Heritage. 5 years of research helped uncover the remarkable 142-year story of black life and race relations in a predominantly white Chicago suburb, including its integrated past, black community institutions, and World War I-era tensions that led to racist covenants that reduced and suppressed the black population for decades. Next is the Illinois State Museum for Growing Up X. This project, the first museum exhibition in the country to focus on Generation X, explored the toys, technology, and cultural touchstones of youth familiar to those born between 1965 and 1980. It offered visitors the chance not to just reminisce, but also to reflect on the social and cultural forces that shaped them as individuals and as a generation. Next is the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, the Emmett Till and Maybe Till Mobley Institute, and the Emmett Till Interpretive Center. For Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley, Let the World See. This powerful partnership interpreted the tragedy of Emmett Till's murder and the courage of his mother's civil rights crusade to diverse intergenerational audiences through a traveling exhibit designed specifically for young visitors. Congratulations. That was awesome. Next is the Monroe County History Center of Bloomington, Indiana, for Breaking the News, the past and uncertain future of local print journalism. When Bloomington lost its last daily locally owned paper, staff realized that while newspapers told the story of the Monroe County for nearly 200 years, no one told the story of the newspapers in a comprehensive and contextualized way. This exhibit educated the community on their journalism history and stimulated conversation about the future of local news. Next is the Shelby County Historical Society in Sydney, Ohio, for the Wallace Family Learning and Innovation Center. This project created a center for county history through extensive primary source research, a building renovation, and creative interpretive techniques, emphasizing local leaders and the diverse stories that make this county unique. Moving on to Region 7, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. Starting with historic Castilian Springs for Hidden History, a behind-the-scenes tour of Cragfont. Undertaken by a newly unified consortium of 3 house museum sites, this project interpreted slavery for the first time at a Georgian house museum in rural Tennessee. Through new research and tours focusing on the experience of Delphi, the enslaved cook, this project addressed the many ways history can be hidden and lost and the consequences of these omissions. Next is the Tennessee State Museum and the John Hope and Aurelia E. Franklin Library at Fisk University for building a bright future, Black communities, and Rosenwald schools in Tennessee. This community-led partnership highlighted the importance of the history of Rosenwald schools across Tennessee and served as a platform for alumni and community members to share their stories and preservation efforts of the state's 60 remaining schools. Next is Region 8, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. In Region 8, we have the Dr. Pepper Museum for the people who made Dr. Pepper. I took French in high school, I apologize. Las personas qui hicieron el refresco Dr. Pepper. This community-driven exhibit updated the museum's bottling room, once focused on machinery, to discuss the generations of employees who worked there and the immigration, segregation, and individual stories of those who brought this soft drink to the world. Oh, Duolingo. Okay, Region 9, Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Starting with the John Michael Kohler Arts Center for Mary Knoll Arts Environment. This project preserved and interpreted the home of a 20th century visual artist, which was a work of art in itself. Through programming, community engagement, and an artist-in-residence program, the project infused the community with Mary's creative spirit and preserved a unique artist-built environment. Next is the Wisconsin Veterans Museum for souvenirs of service, the things they kept. This exhibit includes artifacts from Wisconsin veterans who served in the U.S. military from the Civil War era into the 21st century, bridging the expanding military-civilian divide and encouraging a deeper understanding of what military service means. Next is Region 10, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. Starting with Black History Trail of Geary County, Inc. for Black History Trail of Geary County, Phase 1, the dedication of 6 sites. This Junction City, Kansas project researched and uplifted the diverse stories of Black settlers, residents, service members, and multiracial families who made the county home for decades. The first step of this ongoing project is establishing signage for self-guided tours to educate locals and visitors about this unique history. Next is Shawneetown, 1929 Museum for In Their Footsteps, a Veterans Day Lantern Tour. This 1920s downtown and farmstead site interpreted the experiences of World War I veterans and families and how the war affected the town over a decade later. Through immersive living history presentations sharing individual stories of grief and camaraderie, this project demonstrates how deeply poignant human emotions and experiences lie behind the paper records, statistics, and material culture of military history. Next is Landmark Builds for Iconic Joplin. Celebrating Joplin's 150th birthday by recreating local landmarks with Lego, this program engaged local youth in the process of historic research and collaboration to choose buildings, interview experts, design their structures, and share their newfound knowledge of their city with their community and peers. Next up, Region 11, Colorado, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming. Starting with the Louisville Historical Museum for the Marshall Fire Story Project. Louisville Historical Museum. This project responded to the devastation and trauma wrought by the Marshall Fire, a wildfire that swept through the towns of Louisville, Superior, and Marshall in Boulder City, Colorado on December 30th, 2021. The museum collected artifacts and stories of the fire and provided a space for the community to connect and grieve this local tragedy. Next is Museum of Boulder for Proclaiming Colorado's Black History. This preservation educational outreach project amplifies Black perspectives and resources Black Colorado historians to preserve and share the state's Black history. This ongoing work has produced an exhibit, oral histories, educational curricula, artwork, programs, and more to preserve and share this history in a rapidly changing region. Moving on to Region 12, Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. We have the Washington State Historical Society for Black Washington. Black Washington is the first app and educational platform dedicated to exploring the remarkable statewide stories and rich cultural legacy of Washington State's Black community through captivating stories, influential icons, and significant landmarks. Black Washington features over 50 entries that provide a glimpse into people, places, and moments that shape Black history across the state, and provides links to resources where users can dive deeper into their history. Next is Region 13, California and Hawaii. Starting with the Barona Cultural Center and Museum of Contemporary Art San Diego for Muyaukek. You should know. This Native museum in Lakeside, California partnered with the San Diego Art Institute for 8th grade students at Barona Indian Charter School to create a heritage project on the art museum's location. Students learned the history of La Jolla, how Kumeyaay people were pushed out of this space, and how it became an elite city and created artwork reflecting on their culture, its erasure, and its continuity and continued vibrancy into the 21st century. Next is Jerry Wong of Sunnyvale, California, for decades of preserving and sharing Chinese American history in the state. Jerry co-founded the Chinese Historical and Cultural Project and created the Chinese American Historical Museum. For decades, Jerry has elevated the visibility, activity, and contributions of Chinese Americans for readers, researchers, academics, and the general public for the past, present, and future. Next is La Plaza del Cultura y Arts for the 18th and Grand, the Olympic Auditorium. This exhibition recounted the 80-year history of the Olympic Auditorium as a focal point for sports and music entertainment in Los Angeles. The culturally rooted project for multi-generational audiences uplifted and amplified the history of Mexican, Mexican-American, and Latinx people in Los Angeles. Next up, we have the Publication Awards. Starting with, in the large press category, Faith, Race, and the Lost Cause, Confessions of a Southern Church by Christopher Allen Graham, University of Virginia Press. This work is a history of Richmond's famous St. Paul's Episcopal Church. In 2015, following the murders at Emmanuel AME in Charleston, South Carolina, St. Paul's congregation began a process of historical self-study, which morphed into their History and Reconciliation Initiative. Graham's narrative builds on this work and charts the congregation's theological and secular views of race from the church's founding in 1845 to the present day, exploring the church's complicity in lost cause narratives and racial oppression in Richmond. And in Publication Awards Small Press, we have Promising Cures, The Pursuit of Health in 19th Century New England Community, Lynn, Massachusetts, by Andrew V. Raposa. This comprehensive 300-year history of a Massachusetts town through its pandemics, surgeries, quack cures, and scientific advancements offer a unique lens for exploring local history that is profoundly human and relevant to present-day concerns and society. Thanks, Ken. All right, we're getting to the end. We're getting to the next part is the History in Progress Award, or HIP Award, which is a special additional award for an Award of Excellence winner whose nomination is highly inspirational, exhibits exceptional scholarship, and/or is exceedingly entrepreneurial in terms of funding, partnerships, or collaboration, creative problem solving, or unusual project design and inclusiveness. This year we actually have 2 recipients, starting with Landmark Builds, Joplin, Missouri for Iconic Joplin. So I said a little bit about them, I'm going to say a little more. Iconic Joplin engaged teenagers in celebrating the city's historic milestones through Lego building competition. Through research, community engagement, and STEM education, this project brought together 30 teens to choose local landmarks and recreate them in Legos in building sessions at local cultural institutions. Iconic Joplin inspired young learners to see their town with new eyes, research and appreciate its history, and develop new STEM skills in cooperation with their peers. It's really great. And our second History in Progress Award winner this year is the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, the Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley Institute, and the Emmett Till Interpretive Center for Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley, Let the World See. 14-year-old Emmett Till's brutal murder in 1955 Mississippi and the subsequent lack of justice for his murderers became a powerful spark in the civil rights movement. The historic marker placed at the river site where his body was recovered has been repeatedly vandalized and replaced, and the image of the bullet-ridden sign became a powerful metaphor for the continuing relevance of Emmett's story. These organizations decided to take action by creating a touring exhibit and programming that interpret Emmett's life, his mother's bravery in telling his story, the community's drive to keep his memory alive, and how nearly 70 years later, visitors can still commit to social justice in their own communities. And finally, this afternoon, we have the Albert B. Corey Award. The Albert B. Corey Award recognizes primarily volunteer-operated historical organizations that best display the qualities of vigor, scholarship, and imagination in their works. This year's recipient is the Mount Tabor Preservation Project of Mount Holly Springs, Pennsylvania. This all-volunteer, community-led initiative is dedicated to preserving the circa 1870 Mount Tabor African American Methodist Episcopal Zion Church and nearby Black Cemetery in Mount Holly Springs. This multifaceted project includes preservation of the church and cemetery, community engagement, and programming. By the end of 2023, the once forgotten church was available for community events. Thanks to community-led leadership, the church is preserved for future generations to learn about the Black community and their contributions to the region's history.